Alright, on this video we are shaving the front doors of a Nissan Hardbody. It's actually on a Pathfinder. And this is bagged and body dropped Pathfinder. And I bought these, and I am having to trim them up a little bit to get them to fit flush in here. And I've ground that down to bare metal. If you grind this down, don't use a grinding wheel, use a flap disc and go super slow. All you want to do is remove the paint. And then I took a piece of 14 gauge steel and just put it over the door lock, and I'm welding that up. I used a Sharpie to highlight the very edge of all of the bends so that I could line these bends up with those bends on both sides. And I am welding this up and keeping it cool while I weld it to keep it from warping. I've got a tiny low spot right here, but that is the only warp that I've got so far. It's working out pretty good. I was able to take a screwdriver and push that little warp out, so it is basically flat now all over. I've ground down all of the welds real slow with a flap disc grinder. There is a little spot right here. I'm tempted to weld that back up just to fill in that hole. But other than that, that is ready for some body filler. And I've started on this one. I cut out this 14 gauge steel plate. I will use magnets and possibly a screwdriver to push on the back side to hold that in place as I weld that up. And this is flat all the way around. I just have to fill that in with welds. This is going to take me quite a while. I cannot let this get hot at all, so I will be coming around and welding really far apart. And basically, if you're welding like I was welding right there, if I could not hold my hand right here without it feeling like I needed to let go, then it's already too hot. So you cannot let this get hot at all. And I will cut you back on later. I started doing body work with 36 grit on this block here. What is that, about 18 inches? And I was doing 80 grit on this one, trying to carve out the body line and get it as close as I could get it. And I was using this one. It's not real flexible, but it's a little bit more flexible than that one. It's a different brand. I don't know the brand, but I was using 80 grit on that. And I stepped up to this really long one, and I used 80 grit. And the longer the block, the more body filler, but the flatter the panel gets. And this is going to be a show vehicle, so I'm trying to get everything just as flat as I can get it prior to the epoxy and high fill primer that will finish out a lot of things. And working with this block, I thought this was perfectly smooth, but it had a slight wave in it, and I added another layer of body filler and went in with this long block, and now I can tell that it was not flat at all. So I'm going to go ahead and add another decent thickness of body filler, another coat here. I'm going to put a skim coat here. I'm finding some dents right here that I didn't even know were there, so that will get a medium coat there. And I will continue to work this with the long block, see if I can get this all worked out. The bottom of this and the front where the dents were is really flat. That's ready for primer. I just got to work on this side over here. And there's a couple things in the body line that I got to take care of as I go. But we are almost there with this door. And this one is just sitting. I've got the body filler started, and as I sand, it will remove the rest of this paint, and it'll be down to bare metal. If I find a dent that is not down to bare metal, then I will get it down to bare metal. I'll just sand that with 36 grit or 40 grit on ADA, and I will get that down to bare metal if I need to. This was that stripe, and I was able to get that stripe off last night sanding on this. That glue, I still need to sand here, but as much sanding as I have to do to this, I assume that will be gone. That won't be good if I put that glue under the primer, and that's not going to work. So I'll have to get all that glue off. But that's where I'm at. This is after a few hours of body filler. Kind of took my time today. Not done much. So you have to be careful not to knock it off of your sawhorses or whatever you've got it sitting on, because you can easily miss that just out here sanding on that, and if you knock it in the floor, you got another dent to fix. So always kind of watch what you're doing. And this body filler is probably the best sanding body filler that I've ever used. I'm not a professional. I'm just doing this in my backyard. But the better product definitely makes it easier on you. Alright, I'll cut you back on. I went ahead and used a block. I used this block with some 36 grit, and I blocked around on all the edges. This is my second door that I've done. I tried to get all of this. This had, if you maybe saw in the very beginning of the video, that this had a sticker decal going down at an angle. It's kind of weird, but I guess it was pretty cool back in the 90s. But it's a pain to get off. So now I have blocked this down with 36 grit, and it's a lot smoother than it was, and there is no glue residual left, so we're good there. And then I was blocking around here. I got to a high spot. Anytime you see a weird high spot, not always, but sometimes it's because there was a dent right here. So when a rock or something hit this door right here, it caused it to bend out here. So most likely I can get all of that out with some high fill primer. This will keep going back down to bare metal. I'll just build up on both sides with high fill primer, and we'll just try to work that out without hammering that in. But this is kind of dented right here. It's not terrible. I'm going to go ahead and take care of that. I'm going to blow this out with my air gun and then put some body filler in. I think this one from Orion, anti-corrosion, I think that's supposed to be a little bit longer work time. So I'm going to mix up quite a bit here and try to just squish it around and try to start filling in. There was a dent right here too. It's kind of pushed in. They opened their door into something, and instead of trying to beat this out, I'm just going to go ahead, and it's not bent bad. The camera probably will not even pick this up. Right here is where it's low. But I do want these to be really, really straight and look really nice when I'm done. I'm just going to get them as straight as I can with the patience that I have. And so I'm going to blow this out with the gun and apply some body filler, and then take lunch and come back. I failed to video what I had, but anyway, this is the epoxy. I'm going to let this sit for 5 days. It's going to be hot today, and probably hot the next few days. I may just leave them sitting out here. But the body line and everything seems to be pretty straight. It's not perfect. I've still got to hit some stuff with some high fill primer, get out a few sand scratches with some high fill primer, but the body line appears to be pretty straight, and that was my main concern. The rest of that is just little things. And I've got a little bit of something going on here that will fill in with some high fill primer. I put about 3 coats in spots, 2 coats mainly of epoxy. So this is going to take a while. And I went ahead and threw this bracket in there. This is for a spare tire mount that I have in the back. And while I was epoxying, this is the notch cover that will bolt into the back, behind the back seat. And there's the video. I'm gonna call it a video here and get started on something else. And I will see you next time.